All right, so today we're diving into the world of online poker. Well, not exactly the high-stakes tables you might be picturing.
Right, not your typical card sharks and all that.
Exactly. This deep dive is about something much more intriguing, something that touches on the psychology of gaming itself. We're talking about bots, but not just any bots.
Yeah, these aren't the kind designed to clean you out in a hand of virtual Texas Hold'em.
This is about bots designed to actually make the game more fun, especially if you're not a poker prodigy.
More like designed to keep you hooked.
Which, let's be honest, is how a lot of games, even the ones we love, keep us coming back for more. And our source for this deep dive is a fascinating Bloomberg article that takes us behind the scenes with the masterminds behind some of these bots, a group of Russian coders who really understood how to hack the system, so to speak.
And what they discovered reveals a lot about how online games in general, from poker to those massively popular ones like Fortnite, keep us engaged.
Okay, so before we get into the bots themselves,
Right.
let's talk about the problem these Russian bot creators were trying to solve.
Right, because you can't fix something until you know why it's broken, and the world of online poker had a pretty big problem, especially when it first started booming.
Too many sharks in the water.
Basically, you had this small group of really skilled players, some even professionals, who were consistently winning against a much larger pool of less experienced players.
Ouch, I can see how that would be a problem. It's like walking into a casual basketball game and finding yourself face-to-face with LeBron James. Not exactly a confidence booster.
Exactly. Now imagine that LeBron scenario playing out every time you logged on to play poker online. The Bloomberg article actually points out that something like 80%, that's 8 out of 10, new online poker players quit after experiencing consistent losses.
Wow, that's a huge chunk of players. They're basically getting crushed and saying, well, that's it for me. I'm out of here.
Exactly. And that's a big problem for online poker platforms because a revolving door of players isn't exactly great for building a thriving online community or a sustainable business model.
So the challenge becomes, how do you keep players engaged? How do you give them a sense of progress, of fairness, without completely overhauling the entire game?
And this is where things get really interesting because the solution these Russian bot creators came up with mirrors what you see in a lot of popular video games today.
You're talking about that skill-based matchmaking, right? SBMM, that thing where the game tries to match you with players of similar skill levels?
Exactly. The goal is to create a more balanced playing field, or at least give the player the perception of one.
So instead of being thrown into the digital equivalent of the Wild West, you're more likely to encounter opponents who offer a challenge without making you want to rage quit.
Precisely. And that's where the Russian bot creators come in. They recognized early on that SBMM could be the answer to online poker's player churn problem.
So they started developing bots that could actually analyze players' skill and match them accordingly.
Right, so you're less likely to end up at a virtual table with someone who's going to clean your clock every hand.
Okay, so far so good. But here's where things get a little, shall we say, more complex, even a bit sneaky. Because these bots weren't just there to play the game, they were actually becoming a core part of the system. And not always in ways that players might expect.
It's all about creating an experience.
An experience that might not be entirely what it seems. Tell me more.
Remember that statistic about 80% of new players quitting? Well, turns out those bots weren't just there to give players a fair fight. They were also there to, how should I put this?
To fudge the numbers a bit.
You could say that.
Yeah.
The bots were also there to make the game seem way more populated than it actually was. You know, fill up those empty seats at the virtual poker tables.
Wait, really? So you're telling me there were times when I might have been celebrating a win, thinking I just outplayed a real person, but it was actually a bot all along?
You might have been. See, the creators, they admitted they could fine-tune these bots to play at different skill levels. It wasn't just about having enough players for a game. It was about controlling the experience.
Okay, now this is blowing my mind a little.
All right.
So they could actually program a bot to play like someone who's, say, slightly above average, enough to make a human player feel challenged but not totally outmatched.
Exactly. Strike that balance, keep things interesting. Remember, it's not about taking your money every hand. It's about keeping you at the table, coming back for more.
It's like that feeling you get when you're this close to winning at those claw machines, you know? You've almost got that giant stuffed animal and you're convinced that this next try, this is the one, even though, deep down the odds are totally stacked against you.
We've all been there, right? You just can't help yourself. But that's exactly what these systems are designed to do. They tap into that hope, that almost feeling that keeps you coming back for more.
And this is where the real business model of a lot of online platforms comes into focus. It's not just about offering a game, it's about crafting an experience. And if that experience happens to involve a few well-placed bots, well, that's all part of the game, right?
You could say that. But it does raise some interesting questions, especially in this digital age where it's not always easy to tell what's real and what's not. How much of our online experience is carefully orchestrated? And how do we, as users, even begin to navigate that?
It's a bit like those old movies with those bustling city scenes, It looks like there are thousands of people rushing around, but then you realize it's the same 10 extras just walking in circles over and over again. It's all about creating an illusion.
And a powerful illusion at that. Because if you can't see the strings, are you even really in control of the game? Or are you playing right into their hand?
Which I guess is the million-dollar question for anyone who spends time online. How do we stay informed? How do we make conscious decisions about the platforms we use and the games we play when things aren't always as they appear?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's one that I think deserves a lot more attention than we often give it. Because this isn't just about online poker or even video games.
You're right. This is bigger than that. So where do we even begin? It's a bit overwhelming when you think about it, right? I mean, where do we even start if we want to be more aware of these systems and how they work?
Well, I think the first step is simple awareness, really. Just realizing that these systems are out there, that they are designed to, let's say, nudge our behavior in certain directions.
Okay, so awareness is key. But what comes after that? I mean, knowing is one thing, but how do we actually do something with that knowledge?
Well, once you're aware, you can start asking the right questions.
Like, is this game matching me with a real person right now? Or am I just playing against some lines of code designed to make me feel good?
Exactly. Or even with those ads that seem to pop up like magic. You know the ones, they seem to know exactly what you're thinking about buying. Ask yourself, is that a coincidence? Or is some algorithm somewhere predicting my every want and need?
Right. So it's about becoming more mindful, more skeptical of what we see and experience online. Not necessarily ditching these platforms altogether, but engaging with them in a more conscious way.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, right? Because these platforms can be fun, they can be informative, they can help us connect with people all over the world.
But we just need to remember that they're also businesses. And their main goal is to keep us engaged, to keep us going back for more. Whether that's through the thrill of competition, the promise of a reward, or even just tapping into that very human need for connection.
It's about understanding the psychology behind the system, the subtle ways these platforms encourage certain behaviors.
Right. Like, have you ever noticed how some games, they seem to get just a little bit harder right when you're about to reach a new level or unlock a cool reward?
It's all calculated. But the good news is, once you start to see those patterns, you're in a much better position to decide how you want to play the game.
It's like they say, knowledge is power. So the next time you're on a winning streak, you're crushing it online, take a second to consider, is this my amazing skill? Or am I just playing right into the hands of a carefully designed system?
It's a question worth asking, because at the end of the day, the more aware we are, the more empowered we become to make conscious choices about how we spend our time and energy online.
That's a great point to end on. It's not about avoiding the digital world altogether. It's about navigating it with open eyes and a healthy dose of skepticism. A huge thank you to our expert for joining us today and sharing these incredible insights. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive. Until next time, stay curious. So,
The like and subscribe thing?
yeah. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah.